Is it recording?
We're on. Says we're
Timer's not going.
9 seconds we're in.
It is a daytime handsome hour, and clearly nothing has ever changed. We're still struggling to get everything
Technology.
working. We'd love to do this live, but we're not as advanced as places like the Field of 68. So we'll figure that out. 2026 is our goal. About the time that the NCAA tournament will have expanded
to teams.
A little foreshadowing. Is Jay and Boiler Down on a recorded line? Did you know that if you agree to be in this recording, you've consented to being recorded? I was told that by this recording software.
Oh wow!
So you can't sue me for anything you say.
Yeah, it's all.
One of my favorite parts of your quickcast is when you filter yourself. It's great. You'll be like,
and I'm about to see something, and I stop.
And then you'll go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about it. It's like a little internal monologue coming out for us. And I know what it is. It's usually you with probably a completely reasonable thing, but you don't want to say like, you don't want it to be perceived as you're coming like criticizing Fletch or something. And that's why that's why I think you've handled it well, because you've said we all want him to do well. We all want him to. This is not a like let's come down on Fletch and like crap on him. Let's everybody just wants a little more. We want him to get out of it in a positive way. You want him to shoot out, that kind of stuff.
It does not help Purdue in any way moving past Fletch. This is the thing that I'm trying to get people on board. And I know, like, you've seen the comments and the margin, they are filled with Fletch, Colvin, Heidi discussion. And I mean, I like the fact that we're talking about it, but I think we're not doing any good being, wringing our hands about this. It's not helping anything. And if, let's pretend for a second, Painter says, okay, enough. Fletch, you're not, it's not working. We're putting you on the shelf. You don't really want that. You don't really want that, because we've seen that just having Fletch in a high level, you need somebody else behind him.
Oh yeah.
So we've seen a very good version of Heidi now. We've seen some glimpses or glimmers of whatever hope from Colvin. I would say the three-headed monster is probably the best way for him to handle it.
And you've seen 2 games this year where Fletch, people forget, he was off the charts, man. He had 2 27-point games against really good teams. Arizona was one, and who was the other one? It was in Hawaii. Was it Tennessee or Marquette or somebody like that? He had 2 really good games, 2 27-point games. And like, that was this year, guys. That was this season.
It's not ancient history.
So I mean, I think he is starting to do what people he's limiting the minutes. He's realizing, okay, if he doesn't have it tonight, maybe we get some other guys some minutes. And this is what he has to do here in these final weeks. But the three-headed monster thing you brought up, as long as that's happening, right? And I guess it's typically Edey, Smith, and then who's the third guy, right? Sometimes it's Heidi. A lot of times it's Lance, right? If you got the 3 guys having good to very good games, not even great, pretty good, right?
Yep, no doubt. Yeah, here's the thing that, and I tried to figure out I was doing it on the fly during the last post game, like, the big 3 idea. And Purdue got plenty of firepower. Last game is kind of a weird one to figure out, because you figure if Purdue takes a decent swing at Michigan, they should win going away. Well, obviously they had their arms tied behind their back for the first 10 minutes because they couldn't shoot, right? But they still couldn't space themselves out, right? That was kind of unusual to see, especially as the foul outs started happening. So I was trying to figure out what is the reason for this other than lack of defensive effort. I mean, do you see anything else there? Because like I'm a little bit perplexed at that game, to tell you the truth.
The Michigan game?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was one of those weird, like, it never really felt like they were not going to win, did it? So no. I saw this talked about on other recaps I saw where, questioning.
Michigan sucks, though. Let's just be real honest. Let's call them exactly what they are. They're not good. They've got plenty of talent, but they're not a good team.
Well, don't we always say, though, that wins on the road in conference against talent is not to be – I don't think you should ever now they won by 8. If they had won by 14 or 15, you probably aren't thinking that, I would think. You're probably thinking,
it's absolutely true.
And it's
right?
and if they don't have that little cold stretch towards the end, they probably do win by that much, right?
Not shooting the 3 ball is one thing that was like statistically unusual in that game, right? Like, I try to look at just like black and white numbers, and I'm like, man, that's kind of the only thing. And they were only, they weren't super far off their pace. They were We're 10% off their pace, but they, yeah, it's an unusual thing. That jumps me right into the second thing I wanted to talk about, because this is something I bring it up. You hear me bring it up on the QuickCast. I know you seem to be in the margin a lot, which I appreciate you doing that. I know you're a busy guy.
When I see you go live, I jump in, but I don't get I don't know how everybody knows.
The bell is what's supposed to.
I have the bell clicked,
right?
And unless I open YouTube, I don't get any.
you have to have YouTube open all the time.
Yes. I don't get an alert on my. Oh, maybe I need to have my notifications on. See, this will be a text.
That's it.
That's probably what it is. See, I don't like notifications. It bothers me. So anyway, go on.
Well, so the next question is, I refer to this conversation we had back in November. I hope it's something I'm not doing in, out of confidence, like where you said, this was the circle of trust.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Tree of trust, but whatever.
The nest.
Yeah, the nest. Exactly. So
are we not?
Are we not in the tree of trust? You said that this was the same team back then, and you were absolutely right. So now we're 3 games from the end of the regular season. Is this the same team?
What I said, no, it wasn't. I didn't say it's the same team, and you haven't quoted me that way. You've said this feels the same. Is what I said, because everyone was like, "This feels different," and I said to you guys, "It feels kind of the same to me."
Feels kind of similar.
Yeah, and I'm
old enough to remember 350 days ago.
Well, I only meant that the season started the same way, where we were like, "Man, when these guys are hitting on even 6 out of 8 cylinders, how the hell could somebody beat them?" Right? And that looked like that for 2 Novembers in a row, right? And so there was no way for it to feel better than last year in November. I think you would agree, right? If you compare Novembers, no way this past November could have possibly felt better. And
literally, you and I I put that stupid dream scenario thing out in the internal chat, and I said, here's what's going to happen, like I do sometimes just to be a dumbass, right? And I said, okay, and Purdue's gonna crawl they're gonna go up the charts and be in the top 5. Because I knew that the quality opponents and the respect the media gave
you didn't
those
think they'd win all of them.
I didn't think it was going to happen. That was crazy talk.
So
right?
they were a little better,
did it.
But it felt the same. They ascended to number 1. It felt very similar. Now, your question to me now, does it feel different? Yes, it does feel a little different to me. Yeah. If I'm trying to be as down the middle here as I can and not let 30 years of wounds affect my feedback. I do think it feels different. I think this team looks more, and it makes sense. You're battle scarred. They're not going to be, I don't think, frightened by adversity the way that maybe, I don't want to say they were frightened last year, but they did look a little, nobody being willing to shoot towards the second half of that FDU game, or even the St. Peter's game a couple of years ago, nobody taking charge of it. I don't think you're going to see that again. I mean, who knows? But it does feel different, and they don't feel to me like they're listing the way that they were in February last year. Right. Not yet.
I agree with that.
I said
in February last year, remember, I said they lost 4 of 8. That's pretty damning.
But I've been saying to you these next couple of weeks, which I said like a week or 2 ago, is where I'm going to kind of see where they have 3 games left in the Big Ten, right? And those are going to tell us a lot. If you win 2 out of 3, I'm fine with. You win 2 out of 3 and you win them handily or confidently or whatever term you want to use, then I feel about as good as I can feel, I think, going into the season. Don't you think?
Somebody had a good point in the comments, not the live comments, not the live chat. And they said this Michigan team is like a good version of FDU because they're bad. They're decidedly bad.
But with much better athletes.
Much better athletes, much more size. Remember, FDU didn't have a guy over 6'9". And I think it was 6'9". The next guy was 6'6", who was playing a big, right? Michigan has that 7-foot guy who's playing, and then the guy behind him 6'10", right? Even with the flu, Schitter's still a pretty big guy, right? Yeah. So I don't know how he's still at Michigan, by the way. I really don't understand. But I know that everybody gets unlimited eligibility.
I do think that Michigan played as good as they've played recently in that game.
Sorry, LBT just reminded me he's a redshirt sophomore. And I'm like, okay, that seems.
How doesn't it seem like go to school? This is why we record during the day, so that we don't have these distractions.
I know. He's got a big announcement coming up, by the way. The decision is going to be made this week.
Well, I saw the color of his cool car, so I know where he's going.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, LBD had a little fender bender. We had to replace the car. First.
He's all right, thankfully.
He's all right. It's great. Yep. Got him a totally sweet 2008.
Man, that is a great ride.
Dude, the car is awesome. It was owned by old people, so that's
I can tell the color combo on that kind of car. That is always an old person.
Yeah,
always.
It's in such good shape. It's amazing. They kept that car in such good shape, and he's already gotten a door ding at school. He knows it. I was like, dang nabbit. The old guy took such good shape. They had padded seat covers and a steering wheel cover. I ripped it all out, and I was like, everything's pristine in here. It's like it's never been touched. It's awesome.
So you made a joke there about the guys. He's a redshirt sophomore guy. So Zach Edey announced yesterday that
he's going pro. Wow.
He could have come back. That's the insane thing. He could have come back. Now I looked, by the way, this isn't as crazy as it might sound because he is still only 21. He's not even 22 until May.
They're 24-year-olds Purdue players.
Right. So if he came back, he would finish next season and he'd still be 22. So when people talk about, oh, there's no way that person could come back, he actually could, and he wouldn't be like obscenely, crazily old. He'd be what a senior should be. He'd be 22.
Right. And I mean, like I graduated at 21 and I was young.
Right. Well, but I mean, just for a moment, think about him in college for 1 more year.
Oh, it's crazy. It's great. But the funny thing is, I get comments or questions about this. I think I've answered a couple of them live, and I'm like, no, he's not coming back.
No.
And people are like, well, but he may. And then they say, I've got a good source. I'm like, what's your source? What's your source? Because Zach has been talking about lasts all season. He's been talking about the last time here, the last this, the last that. He's not coming back.
You remember we used to have this when Boogie was here, when Biggie was here,
right?
When Ivy was here. People would always tell him, he's a sophomore. He could come back. Yes, by rule, he could. Right. You're correct. He's not going to. Right. There's no
reason to come back.
All of those guys, we knew when it was over.
Right.
I mean,
and I know him getting paid $1.5 million this year was pretty good. My guess, and I don't know the answer to this, the definite answer to this, but my guess is Purdue's collective really can't take another $1.5 million person on one guy. I know there's money comes back to the program, but I still think that's a ton for that. Purdue's infrastructure isn't Texas A&M, right? Nope. There's no oil men here. They're guys like
that over to Catchings. You're gonna have to hand that money over to Catchings.
Oh my gosh, man, he looks great. If so, you and I've exchanged notes on this, and I've checked in on the OTE stuff, and he's hit his stride. If you don't know this about Cain Catchings, he's hit his stride. He had a 21-point, 13-board game in the playoffs. They had 3 guys injured or 3 starters out, and he carried the team. He has built his swagger up. He looks a lot like the way Boogie used to act as a sophomore or junior. All good stuff. I think there's no way in hell he stays at Purdue for 2 years based on his length, his athleticism, his skill. I don't know what that means for Purdue. I'm not an IU fan to say, oh, yeah, this is national championship. What I really don't for a developmental program to have a guy that's a one and done, I don't know what that does to a team. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I can tell you that every time you have a guy that looks like he's a massive ego, let alone 2 or 3 massive egos potentially next year on the team, I wonder about what that does to Painter. Painter's been so good at managing these personalities, not letting them kind of rule the day and say, okay, we've heard in the last few years of egos getting in the way during the last game of the season during the NCAA tournament. There was a rumor a couple years ago that from one of the players who talked about, oh yeah, we've got a problem. Some people aren't listening. Some people aren't listening, aren't playing within the system. And I think that's the challenge. Here's the problem. We had a good discussion on Twitter, me and a couple people, about Painter not being the most supreme recruiter, but Painter has been a very, very, very good recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Much better than Gene Cady. He's kept the identity of the Gene Cady Purdue ethos, whatever you want to call it. It's all stayed intact, and he's able to elevate the talent level, which is really good. Somehow Purdue has fought all trends, kept people there, redshirted people, not had to fight off, suitors at the door who were trying. I'm sure that happened. We heard the rumor about Braden Smith, but we haven't heard anything that felt like the team's getting torn apart by the fact that Edey makes more money than anybody else.
This team seems incredibly focused this year.
Incredibly focused, incredibly professional. Again, this is there's a to throw around the word professional, right? Literally and figuratively, to act professionally, you don't have to be paid. But I bet. I know every player on Purdue is paid something, So,
but it's all so clearly everybody on this team, and this. Being the cynic that I am, this doesn't last forever, right? If you have another, ignominious exit it might change some things, but
that's a $10 word right there.
But this group seems to be so laser focused on everybody just doing their job, their role, no matter what they're asked, even if it means, I mean, you look at some of the guys getting so many fewer minutes than we have seen in the past or that we expected them to get, and just coming in and doing what they're told, doing what they're asked to do, doing what they're good at. They seem so laser focused. And I don't think that's what the difference, not that last year's team wasn't focused, but with 2 freshmen in huge pivotal roles, you know, you can look at the past few years. You broke this down, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Was it the Ivy team where you broke down how far teams with the defense as bad as Purdue's at the time had gotten? And you were like, it just statistically isn't there, guys. And it was like we were through the looking glass because you were talking about statistics and metrics. But but then last year's team, you know, 2 freshman guards. Okay, that's another
formula breaker. That's
a big problem for the tournament, right? Now you've got guys who now after 2 full seasons, and maybe we could just talk about Smith. He's not, you know, he with the mileage on him now, just in a good way. He's not a freshman. He's not a sophomore anymore. I mean, he's going to have 65 games, 70 games under his belt. Like, come on, that's some guys don't play that much in their entire 4 years, you know. So
what did you think? What did you think about that little those NBA scouts saying that Smith may have a spot in the league? Did that not shock you?
No, it doesn't. Well, I guess I need to know the context. They don't mean like right now, right?
Yeah, they did. There were 2 people that came out, and that's the thing. That's what got me so much. And I'm like, okay, this put me on my heels a little bit because I hadn't even thought about it.
He's a 4-year college player.
I think he's I completely agree. I've thought that the whole time because he doesn't have the prototypical NBA body, right? Not being 6'4",
he can't play above the rim, tough. And I think that's. You know, are there places for guys like that? Yeah, I mean, he could get. I wouldn't be surprised at all that he gets minutes.
He's like the guy who plays for the Pacers, the backup point guard they've got right now. Yeah. I can't remember his name because I don't watch the Pacers that much. Darn it, my brain doesn't work. It doesn't matter, but he's like that guy where you're like, okay, he's gonna be rock solid. He can break people down off the dribble. He'll do exactly what he does. His wingspan is freakish. That makes a big difference for how he plays defense. The way he shuts down passing lanes so well. Some things it looks like it's like, did that guy not understand?
But you're talking about him doing that at the college level and doing those things at the NBA level.
Yeah,
with much bigger, much longer guys. Like he's going to look
McConnell
so
for the Pacers. I think that's his name. McConnell.
He would look so small against NBA players. And he now in 2 years though. Look at how he looks like he's working out and he's developing and he's getting stronger. Like, give him another 2 years. I mean, I'm still open to the idea, but yeah, it's nonsense to be talking about it. Now, this is a guy who didn't even make the Kuzi list a month ago.
There's some conspiracy theorists say that's because of ESPN's tie-in, and I don't know what about that truth, but it's really stupid to keep him off the top 10.
Let's make it even more of a farce over some media beef. I mean, it does sound far-fetched, but is it? I mean, that kind of nonsense goes on all the time.
It's not ridiculous to say that the media tie-in stops an award from being handed out. I mean, my brother and I have talked about the shifting of the storytelling from ESPN, Fox, whoever, because of their conference tie-in, because of their vested interest. We've been talking about this for years. The way the SEC football story has been told for a long time has been heavy-handed towards the SEC and against everybody, specifically the Big Ten. And now you're seeing it like almost when something happens in the Big Ten and it's a positive, it's almost not reported on ESPN very much. I mean, that's the new thing where you're like, they're acting like it's not existing.
But they do cover the Big Ten. The Big Ten is on ESPN sometimes. Oh, isn't it?
No.
Or is it not at all?
No, not anymore. That's over.
Wow. I mean,
they may have been in the pre-conference because of some of those weird events. That's it. That's what you're thinking about. They were probably on for Maui.
I try to pay as little attention to the network stuff and ESPN. I was in an airport yesterday, and just the TV on in the place I was.
Right, something you never watch anymore.
Well, it was like it wasn't even with volume, right? It was just their whole morning slate of Stephen A. and others yelling at each other. It was probably 15 minutes again on court storming, and which makes me even hesitant for us to talk about it. But
no, I'm ready now.
All right,
I'm ready to go on that. But I've got like 15 different points, but we keep going on yours. But I've written them down. I've got notes.
Oh, Well, don't let me stand in your way. Let's pivot over to court storming.
No, but you're talking about you're watching the ESPN's wonderful lineup in the morning. Who watches that?
Well,
how does it keep the light? How do they keep the lights on there? I really don't understand because I don't
would
know
be so
one
wrong.
person.
Well, they're paying all those people, right? There are people they are paying.
People are getting paid a lot.
When you and I were in college, they would rerun the 2 a.m. Sports Center until actually for a long time they ran it until the early afternoon until they had other programming on.
Yes.
Then they started doing like a noon Sports Center that was fresh. Right. Which I think is fine if you do one about that day's stories and all that.
Pretty cheap programming to produce.
Yes, that's my point. Highlights. Rerun the middle of the night one all morning because all you're talking about is what went on last night anyway on these shows. Right. You don't have to pay anybody. Like, what's the harm in that? I guess you got to own the morning slots. I don't get it, but it's unwatchable. And I mean, I'm talking about
for me, it's either The View or Stephen A. Smith yelling. Those are my two choices. Who's thinking that way? I'm not kidding. Like, where is this market? I don't understand.
You used to say this years ago about Chris Berman. You said,
yes,
he's not for us and he's not for my dad. So who's he for?
Who's watching him? Exactly. Berman had photos of somebody at ESPN. I'm convinced they kept him on the air.
Dude, they still throw him on at halftime of Monday Night Football. I'm like, gosh, just put him out to pasture. Enough
already. And I don't mean to. I'm not saying as a man. No. It's okay. He should be retiring quite well. He's made $1 bazillion. I'm not wishing him ill. Just don't put him in front of the screen. That's all. You don't have to stay in entertainment the rest of your life. You don't have to do that. But
again, if there's somebody who has a really interesting point of view. Or really
insightful
commentary, right? Then you trot him back out occasionally, but he's just I don't know how we got off on this. Anyway,
like an old Peyton Manning, right? You could see him still having some pretty good things to say,
right?
I would think, he's not that far away from being an old man. He's our age, right? I mean, that's the funny thing about dating and dates and time, and they just keep marching forward. Okay, so let's talk. There are a couple things I wanted to talk about. Let's do this. The next thing. Let's stay Purdue first. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I put a little something down about just how much I appreciated Edey. You talked about he made it official, and who was it? Who's the numbnuts? John Rothstein, right? Said, "Oh my gosh, I got an interview, and they said Edey's leaving." Oh, you kidding me? Okay, he's a weirdo. Okay, so. In your opinion, okay, because I put a little video vignette there right around that talking about how much I appreciate Edey and how I have not taken for granted and the fact that Purdue has this forever safety valve. Remember, we've been through eras where Purdue couldn't find buckets for long periods of time, right? Even with good teams. Edey is an incredible safety valve. Brian Newbert said he's the most consistent Purdue player he's ever, of the greats, that he's ever covered.
Yeah,
and I think that's accurate. Is he the greatest of all time? People are talking about what he needs to do to cement that. I think it's an awesome conversation because you can't really prove it. That's the most fun about it.
Outside every sports argument over eras.
Yeah. So why do you hate Edey? I guess that's the question.
I'm not one of the people arguing against it.
No, you're not. That was just I thought that'd be a good set.
Look. I know a way he can differentiate himself and be the greatest of all time.
Oh, yes, we both do. So let me ask you. So the next question is the Final Four enough? Yes, right?
I think so. I think so.
Final 8, you're tied. Although you've got the second National Player of the Year. He's going to get the National Player of the Year award, but you're tied with Robinson. I think Purdue fans, they'd say, cool. I think the really analytical Purdue fan might say, well, it's kind of a down year for college basketball. There aren't as many guys there. That's bullshit, by the way. This is the thing. People always do this. Even younger people say, well, look at the good old days. You're like, okay, it was good then. There's no doubt. But it wasn't like you're making it out.
No, never was.
It's
never that way.
You're looking through a prism that you already know how the thing ends. So you know these guys that were good at Illinois or good at IU or whatever, like Calbert Chaney. IU fans talk about him. He goes on, he plays, has a good, solid pro career. And that changes the way you think about players. It was a good era of the Big Ten basketball. You and I were there during that heyday. It's one of the heydays. This is not a heyday of Big Ten basketball. That said, there are plenty of guys that are coming out of this conference that are going to be really good in a couple of years. And you'll say, wow, can you remember when Payne was playing at Minnesota, how good he was? Something like that, right?
But there are teams, think of some of the best Kansas teams and the best Kentucky teams under like Calipari. Some of those years when they were absolute steamroller teams, they were
flawed.
But their conferences were terrible.
Right.
My point is a great, legendary, epic team can come out of a down year of a conference or a down era. That Kansas won the Big 12, 10 years in a row or whatever the hell it was. And Kentucky, when they were at their best, the SEC was not good. Tennessee
was
had not
awful.
risen to this yet. Florida was down. Everybody was down.
LSU wasn't good. Yeah.
So you were barely getting challenged if you were them, and they were still great teams. So my point is,
that SEC point's a good one. I didn't think about that as much.
My point too about, I've said this to you guys off air. I haven't said it too much on air, but this whole the Big Ten is because we're none of us are go conference kind of people. However, I still think this whole the Big Ten is just garbage. That's what Michael even said in our chat. It is what it is. It's this era of college basketball. I don't think it's that bad. When your worst teams are as talented as Ohio State, Michigan, IU, look at the athletes on those teams, and they are the bottom of the conference. To me,
that's the crazy. That you look at Michigan and IU and Ohio State; those three teams, they have plenty of pros on those three teams.
Yes. So if those are the worst teams in your conference, then your conference isn't as bad as everyone's making. I'm sorry, that's just my position. I know that what makes people say that is seeing Nebraska and Northwestern up in the top 4.
But they're playing well.
But they're playing well. Nebraska's 20-8 or something.
Look at the way these teams have percolated up. This is what another one of my points I want to talk to you. Put it right into this. So it's awesome. The question was parity versus truth, meaning everybody wants parity. Everybody does. Who's a sport fan? You want to see upsets. You want to see games to be interesting,
different
right?
Teams rising and
is a team truly great or truly good when there's parity like it is right now? Because if you look, the Field of 68 was talking about today. Oh, they put Houston now above UConn and Purdue. Oh my gosh! Stop the presses. I mean, this is a stupid discussion. Those three teams have been analytically great all year, and they've been great when you watch them with your own eyes. They're very, very good teams. That next group, though. Man, these are the ones that gotta scare everybody because you're like, they could win or they could lose any day to anybody.
Yep. Well,
so isn't that what we all asked for?
Yeah. And
regardless of how we got there, I think that's what we all asked for.
And you've got one that's the perfect specimen for that in the Big Ten in Illinois. Illinois could go to the Final Four or they could lose in the first round.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised at either outcome.
Absolutely not. And we know that the positives and negatives, the things that buoy them and sink them, right? I mean, they've got, to me, Shannon Jr. is one of the most athletic guards I've seen in a long time. He's so explosive with the ball. The other day, who did they play? They played somebody and they lost, and he had 34 points or something like that. I was like, gosh, that guy goes off like that. Nobody can stay in front of him.
It was the Penn State loss, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. That game, and it was all our favorite guy, Coleman Hawkins, doing stupid things at the end of the game, just giving the thing away. By the way, Coleman Hawkins is a tremendous NBA talent. Tremendous. If he can keep his foot out of his mouth.
Yep.
And that does matter. He reminds you of, there's a lot of NBA players you can think of right away. You're like, man, stay out of your own way, man. Just stay out of your own way because you're so good. You're so talented. He's a great player.
Shannon Jr. in that game was 10 of 18 from the floor and 13 of 19 from the line and had 11 rebounds. My goodness. 35 points, 11 rebounds.
35 points. Great game. Domask is a guy that I think because of his size and skill set, he'll get in the league. I think Goody could be in the league. I mean, that's right there. And then the other guy, the guy I always forget with the he's got a name I can never Guerriere.
Oh yeah. It's like G.
He's good. He's good. He's on the edge of being a paid American pro. I mean, a lot of here's the soft place to land for all of them too. They can all play in Europe. Every single one of them. Everybody always mentions China, like that's where you're going up. No. Most American college basketball players who are good end up in Europe and they make a really good living. They do very well. Look at guys. Purdue's had tons of them that have done well in Europe, and I mean they're talented. That's all. Okay, so you say then that the idea of parity is the positive, right? You'd say you agree with me?
I think so.
And there's still truth in saying, okay, these teams are still good, but the upset, that next group, somebody, and this will take us right into the next topic here in a second. But somebody said there's been too many court stormings. They seem forced. I can't remember who said that. I said they're not forced. You're missing the point if you say they're forced. You've never been to college and sat in a student section if you say they're forced, because every kid who loves college basketball, who's sitting in that crowd, and even the ones who don't love college basketball, they're sitting next to somebody who does. They're sitting next to you and I 25 years ago, right? They're like, oh man, this team's good. This is going to be a fun one. And then as you can feel the game, oh my gosh, we're going to pull this off. You see the kids in the crowd, they're like on the edge of their seat. This is life or death for them, right? And then when the clock hits 000, they just want to be out there. They want to be in the party, and it is fun for them. This isn't forced. This is them just doing what, okay, we just beat a top 10 team. We haven't beat a top 10 team in 20 years. You hear stuff like that. Those kids know that stuff coming into the game, right? So the court storming thing, let's talk about this, because I got everybody mad at me on Saturday night because I said that, and I will stand by what I say. If I make a mistake, I was ready to write an apology or ready to not gloat, but just remind people of what I had said, okay? When I saw Filipowski shove the kid and trip him, because that's what happens first, then he loses his balance because he's a little clumsier than he thought he would, and that kid had a little more inertia than he thought he did, and then he starts tumbling. That happened. I'm sure he got a boo-boo. I'm positive there were multiple boo-boos. I'm not saying that he didn't get hurt at all. I'm saying he didn't get hurt to the point where a 7-foot-tall, finely tuned athlete, he leaves the court crying with the help of his buddies. His brave coach, by the way, John Shire, came to his aid by jumping in the back of a huddle, and it went off. So he wasn't, I don't know what he's doing to help. Okay, brave John, brave coach. I don't have any issues with Shire, the way he's coached. He's been great. He's been fun to watch, but he's still a part of Duke. And Duke's ancestry, Duke's culture, everything about Duke goes back to them. They play really hard, and then they fall really hard, and then they cheer really loud. This is what Duke has always been. This is what Duke still is. And when Filipowski did that, after taking the cheap shot at a kid who's 5'6", I was like,
who by the way,
I guess you bit off a little more than you could chew against an angry mob. Now they want to knock you down, by the way. After you shove their friend, look for the overview, fight.
The overhead view of that, which shows him trying to cheap shot the fan.
Right.
The reason he has a chance to cheap shot them is because the fan's paying no attention to him. They are running past him.
They're going to the party.
They're going to their team. Yes. And not a single fan was slowing up by a Duke player to taunt them or get in their face.
Until the baby deer starts falling on himself, right?
I don't even think, did they go after him then?
Yeah, his friend, the guy behind the guy, he gives him a little tap to get him out of the way. And I was like, sure, I saw that. He did. And I understand the idea of people like, oh my gosh, that's tough. A crowd's coming at you. They didn't want to touch him. He engaged them. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, sure, they could have controlled it a little bit more. But John Shire said on his post-game comments that when we rushed the court back in the 90s, everybody waited 12 to 15 seconds. I have no idea where he gets that because I spent a lot of time afterwards looking at court stormings. It's not true. Nobody waited. They tried to wait until 0-0-0.
It goes back to your point you made earlier. People look back through a different prism and they remember things the way they want to remember them. It's like,
by the way, Jay, in the movie Hoosiers,
yes,
they stormed the court in the movie Hoosiers multiple times.
Yes.
That movie is a glorification of the best of basketball. High school basketball in Indiana. Oh, shucks. And they still put court stormings in. And now we're making these things into life and death. The most dangerous place you can be is on the court during the court storming. None of that's true, guys. That's the problem with what ESPN is spinning right now. And the fact they did it all goes back to that bias, again, to tie a bunch of things together. That ACC bias and that undying love for Duke. That's why this was a story. And that's why some of you got swept up into it. And I'm not, listen, if this is something you've always thought court stormings are the worst, fine. I don't feel that way. Jay, tell them what you feel and you'd be honest.
I think they're kind of dumb.
Okay, so look,
I'm not saying not to do it.
No, you're not. And Rob Hummel, he talked about it. He sounded off. He said, you know what? We got the court rushed on us a couple of times, and we also rushed the court on other teams a couple of times during my career. And he goes, I love them. I think they're great. I'd like them to do what Coach Painter said, control the area so the kids can get out. Boom. That's it.
And that's not hard.
That's all you have to do. That's it. And the problem's solved.
And let me also say that every profession, every sport, everything you do comes with certain risks. Okay, when you're in the public eye or you're in a public space. And I'm not saying just deal with it and you shouldn't have to deal with unnecessary risk. But this idea that like Filipowski, who's 7 feet tall, was like terrified for his life. Yeah. Okay, part of when you go to college, there should be a little thing that when you're in orientation that says, okay, if you're going to be on the court and you're going to be part of a top 10 program, which you probably will be here, there's a chance this is going to happen if we lose on the road.
Yeah.
Be aware of that. And here's how you handle it. You walk swiftly to our bench. You kind of do whatever you need to do to make sure you don't clobber anybody. You keep your head on a swivel. If somebody comes at you, I would actually defend a play. I've seen that in
get your center of gravity low, right?
If somebody comes at the
Put that
every now and then I've
shoulder
seen a
down.
fan try to mess with like an SEC football player, and I'm like,
yeah.
no, now I'm on the football player side.
No.
Now you've given him a reason to now show you why he's an athlete. But most
And by the
people
way, the player. Here's the other thing. I'll defend all sides here in different circumstances. I will defend the player when he is literally being attacked, like case. When the cocky jerk who thinks he's going to jaw and get in their face. Okay, now you've put your hand in front of a Rottweiler.
Now you're the problem. Now
you
you're
are the problem. Right? And it can switch. And that's like real life, right? This is what happens.
Exactly. It's not black and white. And then let's go on ESPN and let's ask a panel of 50-something old men whether court storming should be a thing. Because that's the best perspective. Let's ask Jay Billis what he thinks about this. Like,
I seek everyday life advice from Jay Billis myself.
He really
goodness, he's a moron. He's a smart moron too. He's very educated.
Yes.
He's got plenty of knowledge of the game and of law. He's a lawyer, right?
Yes.
Isn't he a lawyer?
Practices. Yes.
And yet he says the dumbest things all the time. And if you didn't know what he said, next time they storm the court, let them on and then confine them and hold them
like it's a cage.
I was like, wait a second. Now you've kidnapped them, technically.
Somebody in the comments of that tweet said it's an open-sided rectangle. How would you contain everybody? How would you make them? You're not free to go, and you're not free to go.
And you.
But he also, during the same, I believe, it was during their game day on Saturday, he also talked about how stupid, he loves to take shots at the NCAA, which is one thing that I don't mind about him.
Oh, yeah.
He said, he openly on ESPN will talk about the NCAA screwing things up and being dumb. And he said that about tournament expansion. And what I find interesting is like, so you don't like the NCAA, Jay, and you don't like the fans of college basketball because you don't like them enjoying themselves. You don't like the true, because those are really the real fans. The ones who rush the floor, those are that's college students, college basketball fans. That's
what makes it better and different.
Yes. So you don't like either of those. So Jay must have loved the pandemic when it was just basketball in an empty gym. He must have loved it.
Right. I'm sure he did.
Yeah,
the funny thing is, guys like Billis all the time. He's not alone in this. That's the thing. It's easy to call him out because he'll get on the mic and pontificate.
Right.
There are other people that talk and think like him, but he just says things that I'm like, "What are you doing? You're trying to kill the thing that you love and you were a part of, and you know what makes it great."
He doesn't love it anymore. He's an old man. He doesn't love it anymore.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Too cranky about it anymore. Like you get to a point. This is how you know.
But that's why your perspective is so good here. I'm not kidding, Jay. You say I don't like it. I think it's kind of stupid, but they should do it if they want to.
Of course, but that's because I'm an old man. I when it happened, I was there when Ruckers did it to Purdue on that
right.
You were in less than half quarter shot, and I was a little concerned because I was there with my son.
It was a crazy environment.
And it was mayhem in there in every concourse, in every element of it. And I was a little nervous. And
you had a guy next to you who was a jackass too.
I had a guy put his hands on me. Yeah. But so that made me nervous. But down
on your butt? Ooh, this game just got a little spicy.
Not that time, sadly. I don't, but they should do, you're living a level of joy and that goes away in about a week or two because there's no court stormings in conference tournaments or in NCAA tournaments. It doesn't happen because it just can't. And you could, so you and I were also talking on the side about how for the actual risk of injury, you could control that. You could say to every school, you have a responsibility to have security around the visitor bench and around them and get them off the floor in 30 seconds.
Supposedly the SEC has that and they have fines in place.
Yes.
They have.
Problem solved. Now you can do it, and you know this is part of the game. You can't outlaw everything that could be an inconvenience. You can try, but you can't do it. So, so you put rules like that in place, and you come down on the host, the school itself or the program itself, if they do a bad job, or whoever's responsible for security. Yeah. You hire somebody and you say, you're responsible for making sure this is safe. And if something is not safe, we're going to assess it. We're going to see what happened, and we're going to figure out who's to blame. But then you let the rest of it happen because that's just part of it. That's part of the experience.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. the energy there of the college kids, the stupid signs, the clever stuff. That's what makes college.
You want to take all that away. You want to sanitize it all down.
Exactly.
You and I have complained for years, and people laugh at us, I think, that we love the era of college, the tournament, when they didn't change the floor. If you played it, the pit, it still said the pit on it.
Yeah.
That was cool back then.
They just put an NCAA seal on it back in
Now they just want every court the same, everything sanitized. And that doesn't look like college basketball as much. Right. It looks corporate. And so now you want to take away another element of it. Because now you're getting more and more arenas built that are pro-style arenas. And the criticism of playing in like Michigan fans admit this. Michigan, Ohio State, they're very corporate vibes because it feels like a pro arena. It doesn't feel like a college arena. So we're getting more and more sanitized. We're getting fewer and fewer places that are like Mackey, right? And so then you take away court storming. You take away are you going to then have some students who say, I'm not going to go because the experience isn't the same as it used to be? Sure. Okay. So is that what you want? You just want a TV product only? Yes, is the answer. I'll just spoil it for you. That's what some people want. Yeah.
Exactly. They want almost a hand-picked group of about 2,000 fans.
And they see people enjoying themselves and they get angry about it. That's the thing that's crazy to me. It's like you're actually mad that people are having fun.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Speaking of fun, I do want to touch on this. What do you think about the NCAA? And this is one of the smart things about like a marketing person. The NCAA teasing right now that we're thinking about expanding the tournament. Perfect time to talk about it, just to get everybody all up and over tizzy, right? But expanding it, and I heard comments that said, "Why not? More games is more fun," which is certainly a point of view. I've heard people say, "No, it should stay."
I love what you just said. That's certainly a point of view.
It is.
It's certainly one of the opinions.
Well, listen, there are over 330 D1 schools, something like that theoretically could qualify for the tournament. And if you expanded it to 96, you're still at less than a third making it in. So if you want, basically, I'm doing debate club here. I'm saying I can make an argument for it still being fairly exclusive, right? But then there's a certain element of perfection of the current, I'll say 64. I know it's 68, but that's bothered me ever since they went to that.
Me too. I always call them play-in games. People get mad about that. I'm like,
here's the other thing. I'll just throw this out there. I've felt this way for years. Make all the play-ins power conference teams in those 11 spots.
The bubbles.
Don't have any 16s have to play on Tuesday.
Absolutely right.
Have them. You made the tournament. You get to be there the first weekend. You don't have to play Tuesday in Dayton in order to get a right to
and some
go
of those,
to Spokane.
you have to go all the way out. Exactly. Like you said, go 2,500 miles. Gosh, man, that's not fair. They earned it. They already been through the grinder.
Right. And you won your conference tournament. And now you get to play another game against another team that's like your conference. What? That's not what you're. It makes me so mad. And it would affect the Michigan States and IUs not at all if they had to play these bubble teams. You know, if you're Nebraska and you're on the bubble, okay, you got to make all 4 of the 11 spots the play-in games. Boom, solved. Right. And make a couple of those 16s. Maybe they get to be 15s now. I don't know. I don't care. There's more parity in college basketball.
I would love to see. I think it'd be great to. Well, it's not very fair to some of those higher seeds though. But teams like Michigan State to actually get a lower number. Michigan State, by the way,
like a 14 or something.
Yeah. You look at that team. Look at the net. Okay. Then look at why they're there. It makes no sense that they're a bubble team and why they're so highly ranked in the net. Everybody keeps saying it's because they played a lot of good teams. Cool. They lost to them. Why would you even say that's a point, right? You lost to good teams. Congratulations.
It goes back to my joke about how people used to tell us that you should root for Michigan State to go to the Final Four because it'll help Matt Painter in recruiting. Remember my bit? I would say he could go, hey, if you come here, when we go to Michigan State, you can look at their Final Four banners.
You can check out their banners.
How fun would that be? Come play at Purdue.
Fun. Super fun. No,
you're right. They you look at their schedule too, like the one loss, man, it is just like a machine gun of like win, loss, loss. Like it's so bad. They're 17-11, 9-8 in conference. They're going to lose to Purdue on Saturday, so they're going to be 9-9 in conference.
Right.
So, and they've lost back-to-back games to Ohio State and Iowa. Woof. Both at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they've done it to themselves. That's the thing. Let's not forget, because I remember stuff like this. I don't remember anything, but I can remember that Michigan State was picked to win the conference this very year.
Let me ask you this. They have at Purdue, versus Northwestern at Indiana.
Ooh.
They could lose all three of those. It's possible.
Okay.
Very possible.
I would like it. I would
Let's
like
say
that
if they
to
lose
happen.
2
And
out of
then I'd
3.
like Izzo to resign. I'll be honest. That's what I really want. I'm done with it.
If they lose 2 out of 3, they're 10-10 in the Big Ten, and they would be 18-13.
And they'll get the benefit of the doubt because
they'll get a 9 or something.
Exactly. They did win that one game in the Big Ten tournament. That's what they'll say, something like that.
I mean,
so don't care.
They could play themselves out of this, couldn't they?
What?
They could play themselves out, couldn't they? If they lose all 3, they have to, wouldn't
they? They should. I mean, that's in that scenario, they absolutely should be out. I mean, I would argue that if they have to go 3-0 to be considered like solidly in.
They're not going
3-0.
They're net.
I know. No, they're not.
No way. I honestly feel.
You think they go 1-2?
Yeah. Well, no, they could go 2-1. They could beat Northwestern.
But the seniors at IU senior night, I was thinking about this already. You've got Galloway, Leal, and I don't know who else. I don't know if IU fans care at all. I don't think that's a tough game.
I don't think that's a tough game. I think that's the one that Michigan State's actually most likely to win is the IU at IU.
Yeah. Northwestern's an interesting team because their net is pretty low. They're pretty much out. If you look at they're pretty much done. I think they're in the 60s now.
They're going to get in. They're 10-6 in the conference. They're going to get in.
Look at their net. That net matters.
I know.
Matters. And the fact that they wear purple matters to the committee, I think that's part of it.
But Chris Collins is such a likable guy.
To me, that's a better team than Michigan State. All season they've shown it.
Who?
Northwestern.
Oh, 100% they're better.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, the computers don't like him.
Chris Collins is such a likable.
He is a likable lad.
I mean,
I've mentioned that, haven't I? How much I like Collins.
You love talking about him.
I love talking about Chris Collins. All right, there's one more topic that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Wait, you didn't answer me. Are you in favor of conference expansion or not? Sorry.
Tournament Oh no, you know me. I always think contraction is the answer to every problem.
You'd like to go back to 32 teams.
Yeah, I'm weird like that. And I know I love the tournament. But I would savor it more. Like it would be like a rich gravy at that point, not like a thin sauce. It'd be okay.
But you don't think, see, I know you've made this comment about things you don't like baseball being contracted.
I've made the comment about NFL football. I thought they should have expanded that.
Never have done it. I agree. But you're not as big of a fan of either of those as you are of Purdue sports. So I don't think that you don't think there's too much basketball right now, do you?
No, I don't. But okay. I think that tournament is like I don't want to say perfect. I hate saying that, but that 64 teams, man, that formula. Perfect. Not only has it worked, it's worked magically for a long time, right?
39 years.
Right. Why screw
That's
with
the longest stretch, by the way.
That's the thing. So, I am for the one place I'm for expansion is the college football playoff because I know there's precedent that it works. If you look at the lower divisions, they play tournaments and they're fine.
It's too much.
Too much? Why is it too much, old man?
You and I are because now you're going to have to play like 17 games to win a national title.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to. They could trim that down. I've given my solution on this.
I'm not suggesting it's not possible, but you're talking about expansion. There's no way they're going to do away with conference title games. They should. And there's no way they're going to cut back. You should cut back the regular season to 11, do away with the conference title games, and then have crappy bowls for all the teams not in the playoffs and have the playoff. And I'd be fine with it. But there's no way they're going to do away with it.
There are tons of rumors going around about the SEC and the Big Ten. Those conversations behind closed doors right now involve dividing the conferences up smarter and better into 4 groups, and then having a system that puts a champion of those areas actually be part of the system to get into the playoff. And then the SEC and the Big Ten could actually play their way around all this stuff. We'll see. There is so much volatility and variable coming still. I just think like it to stop.
I think if you add, I think the easiest place to add to the fun, though, again, you'll see me swing back and forth on this argument is college basketball, because adding a basketball game or 2 is not like adding a football game or 2.
Right, because the pounding. Yeah.
Right. So
you're for
and
it.
It's easy. That's what I'm saying about going. I think it's perfect as is. I think it's perfect as is, but I don't think that expanding it would ruin it the way people think it would. I think it would allow it, and you'd have to do it correctly. And by that, I mean, instead of all these one bid leagues, sometimes there's these one bid leagues where there's a really good team and then they just don't win their conference tournament and they don't get to go. If you started applying it to here's where the extras are going to come from in some thoughtful way rather than just the way we do it now, and now instead you're going to have a 7-11.
But they won't be thoughtful because it's NCAA.
No, because it's the NCAA. I agree. Yeah. But you're going to get some bad. Like if you expanded it out now, you'd have teams like probably Iowa and Penn State on the bubble.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Barf.
So that's not good. So no, generally, if you ask me right now, no, I'm not in favor. I'd like to keep it as it is. But I don't think this argument that somebody
like a team. So here, I'll give you one right now that it is a really good team that they just lost. Princeton, I think, just got their third loss. Okay, I think they have 2 conference losses in the Ivy League.
Ivy, right?
Okay, so they're playing themselves out of a bid where they just get invited unless they win their tournament, right?
They won't get invited. They have to win.
Right. And I think that's a shame. That's one of those to me. They've been a good team. They've been a good team all season. There's another one. My son was talking, like he goes into these deep dives and I can't keep up with him. But there's another 3-loss team. Maybe they're out west. He said, and he started talking about the Mountain West. That's a 6 or 7 team league. They get 6 or 7 bids this year. It's wild. I mean,
So by the way, Princeton, to your point, they're 21-3.
Yeah.
They're 9-2 in conference, but they're tied with Cornell and Yale, who are both 9-2, and Cornell and Yale beat them.
Right.
So they're not going to go.
They're not going to. Yeah, they have to win. They have to win.
One of those is going to. Yeah, unless they win out, because the Ivy still doesn't do a tournament, right? They're still.
Oh, that's right.
You have to win the league regular season.
No. Yeah, it is right, isn't it?
I think it's the last one.
Oh boy, that's see now that's.
I could.
So
no, they added it. They added it
on this, by the way. Shevsky talked about he compared it to the bowl system, and he said, college bowls he used some incorrect opinion here. He said this lower bowls keep the interest on college football until the playoff comes. I'm like, no, they don't, because a lot of people don't care about bowls anymore.
By the way, I'd like to just correct myself. They actually do have a tournament. I don't know how new it is, but it's in New York. The Ivy thing is in New York City. I'm looking for that right now. It says New York. I'm assuming this can't be at the Garden. This must be at like I don't know.
No, it can't be in the Garden. But they're early though. Their tournament's really early. Like it might be next week.
No, right? It's the 15th. It's when it should be.
Really?
This is nuts, man. Getting to the game.
I thought they were one of those. Yeah, man, my brain's scrambled right now.
Ooh, it's in Levian Gymnasium.
Who's some guy at some rich guy's house?
This must be at.
No idea where that is. I've never heard that.
Oh, it's crazy, man. It's.
How big is it? How big is the gym?
I'm trying to figure that out. I guess is it at Columbia? That must be where it is.
Man. Yeah, they're like big stage, New York City.
Yeah. Then you need directions to get there. Quite literally on the website, it's like how to get there. This gym holds 2,500 people. It is Columbia University's gym.
That's crazy.
So maybe I should go to it. Maybe I should get a credential.
You'd enjoy it. I mean, you love college basketball, and that the atmosphere of teams playing for their lives, and again, at that college, this is what makes college sports great.
You'd all be so much smarter than me. That's the other thing.
Everyone, you would feel
I'd be
even
the dumbest
more dumb
person
than you do on a normal day.
I'd be the dumbest guy there.
It wouldn't be close.
It wouldn't.
No.
This is actually, I'm sort of tempted to just go. It's right in Manhattan. I could just go to work that day and then cut out and go to the.
I bet it's not an expensive ticket.
I could just get a media credential. It has a thing on there how to apply for one. See, you guys are all part of the ideation process here.
Exactly. Isn't that
this
great?
Is how we plan things. I have an idea, but they have something.
Yeah. Okay, I got one more topic I wanted to talk about. Do you have another topic you wanted to talk about?
No, go ahead. I don't think so.
And this is one we actually talked about this being a headliner and being an entire show. And I don't even know if we can hit this very hard without research. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. But the whole thing is have blue bloods died? Oh yeah. Or are there still blue bloods? And if so, who are the blue bloods and how we define them? This whole idea, this whole thought process, I think is very interesting because Connecticut is clearly a blue blood, right? Wouldn't you say? They've won a lot of championships. They've actually got a 25-year history of championships.
I was just going to ask, is part of the formula for blue blood sustained longer than say 15, 20 years? Because that's all they're at. Their 4 titles have come in the last, I think it's like 15. Isn't it since like 2010 or something? Right.
They span 3 coaches.
Right. So yes, by every metric except
longevity.
Were they a they were not when the Big East was the conference.
No,
in the 80s, they were not.
They were not. And in fact, like in the 80s, they were starting to show that they could be good, right? But women's basketball was the story there, right? It wasn't men's basketball. So you could say, okay, they're women's. So by the way, I'm going to air a pet peeve that some people might have a problem with, and I don't really give it away. But when you start throwing men's and women's basketball into the same comparisons, it drives me nuts. I don't care whether it's wins and losses. It doesn't matter. They did not play on the same field. They did not play against the same competition. You can't say a coach just passed Coach Krzyzewski when she or he played in the women's game. They are different sports. They are different. They're both basketball. The balls are even different sizes, okay? My gosh, darn it, okay? So it's okay. I'm not, if you like women's college basketball, it's your thing, fine. It's not mine, okay? But they're not the same sport. And to say, somebody argued this to me on Twitter, and I didn't respond because I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to really get people mad. They said, well, their women's team won all these championships in the 80s, 90s, whatever, and their men's. And I'm like, come on. That does not define you as, if that were the case, Tennessee would be a blue blood because their women's team was good.
You know what that reminds me of?
They would be a blue blood. That
reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this. I don't remember even what the context was, but there was some press conference or some introduction of a coach at IU, and their AD was making jokes about how many more national championships they have in all sports than Purdue, and they were like throwing soccer at Purdue. And I'm not soccer's a big deal. Sure. It's a real soccer, sport, right? There are great athletes in it. You've coached women's soccer. There are fantastic. Please, this is not us minimizing.
I don't like soccer.
It's a real thing.
Right? It's a real sport. Those championships are good.
But it's the same vibe when you start saying, well, let's gather all these completely unrelated things together. Sure. Now, I guess if you're arguing an athletic department success.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine. You can say we win at all levels and all genders, and that's okay. That's legit. That's a good boast.
If you really want to get into that stupid conversation, though, you could say in recent years, meaning the last 20, again, if we're going to call that, Purdue's been pretty good in the Olympic sports. Pretty good.
And in golf, women's basketball. And in volleyball. And
yeah. So
baseball team went to a College World Series in there. Baseball team. Located in Indiana, went to a College World Series. So
IU did too. So
I'm just saying, but let's not pretend that this whole athletic department it's not just basketball. It's not just men's basketball. Women's have been great. Football's been a division champ. By the way, that brings me to one thing. Before you go any further with this.
Okay.
Randomly today, I saw Jeff Brom's Instagram, and there's something so hilarious about it. He has not posted to his Instagram since he left Purdue. His profile picture is him at Louisville, and it says head football coach, University of Louisville. So it was updated, but the last post is about them winning the West Division at Purdue. So it's got this hilarious,
that must mean they don't have an intern to run it because Purdue, he didn't post on.
But what makes it so funny to me is it looks like he's like wistfully looking back at Purdue, like all his posts are about
because he's looking down at all the things.
Head football coach Louisville, and all the posts are about Purdue. That's so great.
Awesome. That is awesome.
It's so great. I just love it.
Yeah. No, I do not follow that coach any longer. As it happens.
The whole Blue Blood conversation, though, that could be something that could be good for multiple. This could be another show, but I do want.
Okay, let's hit it with just a thin layer of analysis.
Prime it. Just prime it.
Just prime it. Okay, so when you look at the Blue Bloods, let's talk about who they are first. So we've talked about this before. Kansas is a Blue Blood, and Kansas is still winning championships. Bill Self is still one of the best cheaters coaches in the game. Okay, Bill Self, Kansas, great. We check that box. North Carolina, they are true Blue Blood. They've won a national championship in very recent memory. I don't know what they're doing right now. Duke, radical change at Duke and North Carolina, right? I would say this is not your father's Duke or North Carolina team, even though North Carolina has won a championship recently.
Still really good.
Still very good. Still very good. They're top 10. But when I say but, I mean it's a major but. It's bigger than my rear end for darn sure. This is like saying, okay, yeah, they're there, but are they really there? I know they've still got the horses. They still got players like people that. Well, I'm not going to hit that joke one more time. They've got blue chip players. They've got 5-star athletes. They got McDonald's All-Americans. John Shire needs to put himself up there in that discussion by having some success in the tournament. There's no doubt, in my opinion, right?
He's only in year 2?
Yeah, he's in year 2. He's in year 2. But to me, if you don't, it's a what have you done for me lately society, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're still a blue blood. They count.
Okay.
They absolutely are.
Okay.
You look like you're hesitating. They went to a Final Four in K's last year.
So yesterday, man, I move on. I'm very,
I think they
very
won
modern,
15.
very modern thinker. I am.
I think they're still a blue blood.
Okay.
Are you going to not include Kentucky in this list? Because they're a blue blood.
There we no, but look at the points I'm making. We're building the case. Kentucky. Sure, still McDonald's All-Americans. Are they really an elite team anymore?
Yes.
You think they're an elite team? They're going to be. Are they 20th right now?
Could they go to the net? Could they go to the Final Four this year?
Sure, they could, because everybody on the team's a future NBA player.
Okay, then
It's funny what that will do.
It doesn't do away with your history of titles. And again, you know how I feel about this, and I have a post.
What I'm saying is Purdue is better. I mean, give me, of course, all the championships.
But you've got the modern. To me, you look at the modern era. The modern era. Go back 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
And that's where you can start to weed out IU as a blue blood. Just objectively.
24 years ago, right? 23 years ago, they went to a Final Four.
2002.
Okay,
2002. They went to the title game in 2002.
And they tripped into that Final Four.
That was also the last time they were in the Elite Eight. So for all the people who make fun of Purdue for not going to Final Fours, right. Purdue's been to the Elite Eight much more recently than IU even has.
Twice in that period, right? Right about that?
Once.
I think so.
Purdue went in 2000 and then again in 19.
Okay, so I just missed it, the first one.
Okay, so then go back to then. Let's cherry pick like they would. Go back 25 years and you've got 2-1.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, so they're out because you've spent, I'd say, more than half of the modern era not being relevant. If you're
yeah. Yep.
Kentucky has been relevant. They've been in the Final Four a ton. They've won a national title, not as much as they should have. I will.
How about this one? Hard one. UCLA. Are they still blue blood?
That's very hard. They were in the Final Four, 2 years?
I know they're in the stupid Final Four. The one doesn't count. It was all in Indiana. They had players on that team though. I know. Tiger Campbell and
Mick Cronin has a Final Four, and he might get fired.
I know. He looks like he's a guy who's trying to submarine his own job.
Oh, he's such a jerk. I have disliked Mick Cronin forever. He used to throw his players under the bus at Cincinnati. He used to be a jerk to the media.
Good thing he doesn't do it now at UCLA. Oh, wait, he does.
Oh, wait. He's the same small man that he always was, and yet he's had more success than Matt. Well, maybe not more success, but he's gotten further.
I don't appreciate the short joke there. It was noted on my notes.
It's not what I meant. Not what I meant. I meant a small in a different way. It's noted.
Noted, though. It's in the big book. That's indelible ink. You're in trouble. Oh, why do you do it to yourself?
UCLA, oh man, that's a hard question. I guess I would go with yes, barely. They're still in the conversation because. Okay,
and speaking of yes, barely, is Gonzaga in this conversation?
No
championship.
They haven't won a title. They've only been to what, 2 Final Fours? 1 or 2?
When 2 Final Fours, I think they've been 1 championship, right? 1 final.
Right, but they didn't win.
They did not win.
They got absolutely boat raced, as the expression.
Okay, I got one more. I got one more that's in the same category. Arizona.
No, because the weird thing with Arizona, they're not that different from Purdue. Take away the 97, and I know take away a title, right?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But remove that from the equation, and they're just like Purdue. Win tons and tons of games and don't overachieve. The last time they went deep was, I think,
don't overachieve. Let's use the right words. They underachieve in the tournament, like they did last year, and like Purdue did last year.
I don't think Miller ever went anywhere with them,
which is wild because they were in the top 5 year after year after year.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of Sean Miller as a Big Ten coach?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
I don't like. I mean, I could see him falling on his face too, but the dude, I don't know. He does win a lot of games, so it's hard to. Hold on, let me look back here. I want to look at this because when he went to Arizona, all right, he did go to. Okay, I take it back a little bit. He went to 3 Elite Eights, but those were teams that had 30, 33, and 34 wins, and they only went to the Elite Eight. They won their conference each of those years, and then other than that, he has 2 Sweet 16s and several first-round exits, and then the last 3 years they didn't go anywhere.
Right.
They didn't go to the tournament. So
I can understand your parallel there,
right?
I think that one national championship.
Oh, but that was 97. Just to put some. You and I. That doesn't sound that long ago. It's 27 years ago.
Right. Gosh, darn it. You sound really old when you.
That's a long time ago.
You must be old if you remember.
That counts.
That's when some of us graduated from college.
Yeah, well, that counts, but that was also one of those championships that surprised a lot of us. Do you remember it was a Miles What's his name? Miles. I want to say
Simon. Miles Simon.
Davis is what I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was not playing then.
No. Miles Simon. That wasn't even. I'll bet you, and I'm not looking right now. I'll bet you that was a 4th place Arizona team in the Pac-12.
They were a bit. I think they were a bit of a.
They were a perfect tourney team, and they got hot at the right time. They were one of those championships.
And they had 2 other pros on that team though. That starting 5 had 3 NBA players on it. I'm sure of it.
Yes, they were very good.
Yeah, they were. That was in Indianapolis. They won that national title. So are there any others that I'm missing? Florida, are they a blue blood? You can't. Not consistent enough in their success, right?
Really good for a short period.
Right.
The
Very
back-to-back
good
titles. Back-to titles or titles, right? They won it 2 years in a row.
They're kind of like Purdue right now, except they actually win in the tournament.
Right. Well, they won. They don't win regularly. They had a little stretch there under Billy Donovan where they were really good.
Squeaky
and then it went
clean.
away.
Squeaky
and it
clean
went away.
era.
Also very clean. I'm thinking here. Who else? Anybody else in the pack? No, right? UCLA is the cream of that historically. Right.
Yeah, see, Oregon is kind of the new rich.
Michigan State?
That's the next one.
I mean, one title just under Izzo. You've got 1 title and like 6 Final Fours. Heathcote went to multiple Final Fours. So, like, I think you could argue they're a blue blood. I think you'd have to say they're in that conversation, don't you?
Their championship is older than 20 years.
2000. 24
so by your definition, they don't make it.
But they made 6 Final Fours in that span.
But they're kind of like Gonzaga then, if you put it that definer on there. Gonzaga's, I will discredit Gonzaga every chance I get.
But you're playing that conference, which admittedly they have scheduled better.
Well, if Michigan State were in that conference, they would go through every year with the championship, no doubt.
That's what I mean. You can't be a blue blood if you're never playing anybody.
Right.
And they have, again, I will give them credit. The last 5 years, they've tried to schedule non-con games that matter, and they get their asses handed to them by Purdue. Oops, sorry, that was in there. Yeah, I left that in. I don't know. They've tried, but no, you can't be a blue blood if you're losing games like that, or if you're playing a schedule like that. Now, who else? Anybody in Texas? No, not Texas, right?
Nope.
Texas?
Nope. No way. In fact, I bring up Rick Barnes, Texas, and Kevin Durant all the time to my son. I'm like, man, they had 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row where they had a National Player of the Year or a candidate who finished second.
Who did he play with? Did he play with Ford? TJ Ford? Is that
he either just missed Ford because he was right before. He had Aldridge right there, and there's another one. I'm telling you, they had great talent. Not good, great talent. And they went to 1 Final Four kind of like barely.
Yeah, Barnes got to 1.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then then that takes me to one other team that's like that, Syracuse, which they got the 1 championship with Carmelo Anthony, and they're not in the conversation. I don't give them, and it's dead. That era is dead. Dead as a doornail, right? There's no Louisville. See, you can't. This is the thing. This is my whole
Louisville's
point.
up close. Louisville's close. Multiple coaches with championships, with Final Fours.
But the state of things, and it's not just now. It's a couple of years. Remember, they weren't good the last years of Chris Mack either.
No.
So like that. So that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, when do you wash it off of you? I don't know why. You tell me. Can you still smell it?
Well, your point, I think, in all this is there an opportunity for a fresh blue blood to join the ranks?
Yeah. I think they're missing one thing, one major little thing.
We'll talk more about this in future shows. However, and we have talked about this in the past, I'm not just saying this. I think if Purdue were to break through, and I'm not talking even about a national title, I mean, even go to the Final Four, I think it gets so exponentially easier, to use a weird word, the next few years to go to more.
Yep.
I think once the monkey's off the back, all of a sudden you're, and we've talked about this, the Jay Wright comp.
Yep.
If Jay Wright's still at Villanova, are you talking about them as a blue blood?
Yes. If Jay Wright is still there, yes.
Probably.
But
because
that's
3 titles since '85, other Final Fours, and a coach that's one of the best, and still not that old. He's still not that old. Like, he could be coaching now. He did the smart thing, man. He got the hell out. He's got what everybody
dreams about. Yeah, he's got the stack of cash.
To have the wherewithal to look around and be like, it can't get a whole lot better than this. It legitimately can't. I've won 2 titles.
I think because of the major changes in the game in the last 2-3 years, I think it cements the fact that he won't ever come back.
Like Sabin. Sabin's old, but that's the reason Sabin got out. It has to be. I think he looked at it like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like where it's going.
Yep.
And I'm an old man. It's having that awareness to say, I can't do that. That's a young man's game.
So did we just settle on that Purdue is the next blue blood? Is that what we just?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Regular season blue blood.
That's right. Regular season blue blood. That's
they are November blue.
Gonzaga and Purdue.
That's right. That's a different. Well, that's it. There's tiers, aren't there?
Arizona, yeah.
Isn't that the next tier? If you talk about Anish, he loves tiers.
He does.
I think that TIERS, not EARS.
Salty tears.
But they'd be in that next one. They'd be in there. They think you just did it really well. They're the Arizona, Gonzaga, Purdue, right? All really good programs that are a step away from Virginia, probably still, right? Virginia's not on the blue blood yet.
Nope.
Win another title, and I think we can talk about it. But even then, I don't think they really check all the boxes because they haven't been historically great.
Right.
Purdue's probably got a better history of winning.
They got a major break in success right after the late 80s. Major break.
Yes.
Huge break.
But that's what I'm saying. Don't you think Purdue's been more of a winning program?
Consistently, yeah. Yeah, Purdue's break comes in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matt Painter took a little nap for 2 years, too, during his time. So, yeah, but this is a good discussion. And it's something I think, Anish we should have him on the show sometime.
We should. He's available.
Busy.
He was telling me that, by the way, he tried on some clothes from home field. And he said, I used to fit so well. This was actually he was not even doing it.
Don't tell the size. Don't do this to him.
Oh, well, he told me a size and he said, I used to fit so well into this. And I bought a new one of that size and it's much tighter. I said, what's because you go to AJ's a lot.
I will say this. I will reveal this about Anish. If you haven't met him, he's 6'4". Okay. Yeah. Right? 6'4".
Yeah.
Okay. And at one point, do I remember this right? He was wearing like a medium or large, a medium, like just out of school, right?
I think he was
That's a small shirt for a big guy. Okay, so he was very, 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 very lean. Okay, so as we get older, we get a little more comfortable. There's, and he's in Pittsburgh winters. You got to put a little bit of layers on, So I got a surprise for you too, Jay. Speaking of sponsors, but Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. And put a sweatshirt that fits you in your basket.
Size up, I guess, is what an issue.
Well, in some cases, sure. Not yours. You're sizing down, brother. And then enter Boiled 23, and then you'll get 15% off. Okay, so the second sponsor. This is fun, and I know a lot of times my pattern of my post games and quick casts. It's all you could fast forward through. Not this time. I don't want you to fast forward. I'll tell you why. So there's a new thing happening. I previewed this a little bit. There's a new thing happening at AJ's, and I don't know if Jay even knows this. I just got a text from Adam yesterday.
So excited.
This is awesome. So they have the bottom filling pint glass at AJ's, right? You fill them from the bottom. It's a really cool system, right? And they don't want you to play around with that magnetic cap. Okay, I don't know what the name of it is. A year ago, Adam said, "Do you guys want your logo on there?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we didn't talk about it again.
Yes, please.
In the Boiled Sports way, we did it. Well, this year I sent them some artwork, and they just came in. Boiled Sports caps on the bottom of your glass. If you go, and we're going to figure this out. Adam had an idea, and I like it. And I don't know how we do this. Maybe we'll work together. But if you get a certain number of your Boiled Sports magnetic puck, we got to come up with a number. We're going to give free merch. And it can't be infinite. We can't do it because we don't have an archive that's forever. Right. But we do have some, and he's got some merch. And I've actually been working on something with him for his store. It's just for him. But when you go and you order a pint, remember it's burgers, beef, and beer, the third B there. Now you're going to look and you're going to bottoms up. You're going to look at Boiled Sports at the bottom of your glass in the very near future, which is pretty cool. So it won't be every glass that comes out will get Boiled Sports. You still have AJ's on there. I think he's still got another. Do they have one of their beer providers? I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think he's got multiple, and that's kind of the challenge. You have to drink a lot of beers to get a lot of these pucks. I don't know what they call them. Adam could tell us, but. This is a fun deal. This is really good. And this is like one thing we really like about AJ's is that this is something that we like about each other too. This isn't just a bit. We like these guys. We like each other, and we're partners with these guys. It's not just it's not. I mean, we really enjoy the restaurant. We enjoy the culture of the place. So This is neat. They did that really. No, they didn't ask us for money. They're just putting Boiled Sports on those pucks. Pretty cool.
Very cool.
So next time you go get a pint, ask for the Boiled Sports puck. We're gonna come up with something. It's gonna be real, and maybe we'll do it. Maybe I'll kick off. I plan on doing something for Selection Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to get to AJ's or not. I got to look at the calendar and what's going on in the personal schedule. But I'd like to go there again and see if I can get there. Maybe go with LBD. Maybe actually have my mic this time because I screwed that up last year. But I think I might try to make the short journey to God's country and over AJ's on Vine and right by the fire station. And maybe we'll do that again. And when we do that, we can talk about what we're going to do. The three of us put our head together.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, is that a good surprise?
That's great. I was excited. I knew that was in the works. I knew we talked about it when I was out there in the fall. We talked about it.
Yep, but he got the shipment. He either got the shipment or he said it's been shipped. One of those two. So it's coming. I may be previewing something but I'm excited about it. So you can't keep that joy in. You know, it's in there. Joy.
It's a good show. So we got another few days because there's no game till Saturday. So you may see us again.
Yeah, I think we should. If we can. I tell you what. One thing, when Jay and I put our heads to it, we can do a pretty good show. And actually putting notes down of what we want to talk about, that moving along pretty nicely. Like most handsome hours, we've gone over by 15 minutes. That's not shocking. A tidy 45 minutes, as always, is the goal. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to my pal Jay out in Jersey, just fresh off of should I not do that? Is that not right to do that? Should I not do that? I know you don't like it. I won't do it. I won't do it to you because you say you're getting weird messages from. Okay. But thanks to my pal Jay out on the East Coast. I'm Boiler Dowd. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again probably before it's Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah. If not, maybe we'll surprise afterwards. Who knows?
Who knows? Exactly.
Who can say?
I love you guys. Good night.